Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, January the 30th and it is a reasonably decent day for where I am. So the high today is supposed to be around plus 9 degrees Celsius, which, just a minute, let me try and do math in my head, is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so not bad. As usual, it was very cloudy this morning, and as always when I get up on a Sunday morning I look outside and go, ugh, cloudy. If it's not sunny, this room doesn't warm up very much. But I did turn the heater on for a bit while I was eating lunch, so I'm now out here wearing my very warm sweater, and so we're filming in here anyway. So today is fairly decent. Yesterday was a good day as well. Tomorrow it's going to get colder, and by Tuesday we're going to be back into like the, unpleasantly cold. So the high on Tuesday is supposed to be minus 15 degrees Celsius. So that's a stay home and hibernate day for me. So if I've got errands to run, I really need to do them like first thing on Monday before that cold front starts blowing through. Anyway, despite the weather report, this is a channel about cross stitch. So if you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And if you are a returning viewer, as always, thank you for coming back and watching my stitching journey. I appreciate all of you who come back on a regular basis and see how I'm doing. And as always, thank you so much for the comments on last week's video. So I'm glad that the discussion of how I personally use a color card was helpful. I was watching somebody else's Flosstube this week and they mentioned they were working on something. I had this whole plan in my head how I was going to write it down. I was going to say, see, other people do this too. And however she used it was for a different way of doing it. But as usual, I forgot to write it down. I just continued watching the Flosstube and went, today I was like, what's that story? Because somebody else used their color chart in a different way and it made sense. But I laughed because for me, because I had just done this video about how I use it, I laughed watching somebody else's Flosstube. We're like, oh yeah, I had to reach down and haul out my color card, and this is what I was doing with it. So yeah, it's I use my color card quite frequently, I have to say, because even between the time I last filmed, even this week, was doing looking at something and hold out my color card and had to dive in there and make some assessments on some things. So yeah, I'm so grateful that I have a color card, and I think it's because I use it quite regularly. Like, I suppose if I didn't have a color card, I would probably going through my DMC stash fairly regularly to try to match something up or find a similarity. But anyway, I have one. I've had one for quite some time. Again, because from my stories from last week, both my mother and my aunt have color cards, and it's how we discuss color, much to the amusement of my father. Anyway, with that, the only other one, Lynn, thank you for your comment last week, because I think you've guessed how I'm going to be using those pinks. So my question to you is, I'm assuming you're further along on that project than I am, because I haven't started mine. How are you feeling about those browns? Do you think I should change the brown? Because I have a brown issue. So since I think you're farther along than I am, hit me up in the comments below if you've got thoughts on what I should be doing for my browns. I haven't decided, still debating. We'll need to make some decisions. Anyway, as always, so the topic for this week is, this is my January wrap up. I know technically I still have stitching tonight to do, and I have stitching tomorrow to do before we're officially at the end, but I'm calling this close enough, and I'm gonna do sort of see how my January plan has worked out, and things that I'm learning as I'm getting ready to head into a new stitching month. On a totally side note, it was interesting. I was doing some training last year on goal setting, and this particular thing was like going what the issue is with setting year-long objectives for people in the workplace. And that perhaps it's more beneficial to break them down into quarterly goals. You know, because things, you know, in the business world, things can change so dramatically between what you think the year is going to look like on January 2nd versus how the year really plans out can be incredibly different. So it was a really interesting discussion, and it made, you know, again, it played into, because I was working on my five-year plan and what I wanted to achieve, particularly in 2022. So it's been an interesting thing, and we'll talk about that when we get to the topic, because we'll talk about the topic at the end. You'll get flavors of it because you'll see what I've stitched this week. So with that, there's piles over here. So I've had to go to that point where, like, so this is a 3-table operation. There's the table where everything is piled up. There's the table that is holding the camera. And then there's a table over here, so I have some place to put things. It's a 3-table operation today. All right. So, as always, let's start with my temperature tree by the Stitching Mummy. This is off of Etsy. I love this thing. So, where did I get to this week? So I did finish off getting all of the leaves on my October branch and got a decent start on November. It's not complete, but it's actually, you know, because it's not quite a mirror image of this one, but it's fairly similar. You know, it's not bad. So that should be easy to knock that off. I had a little bit of a moment where I, you know, gave myself pause and went, maybe the speed with which you're, you know, whipping through these months, you want to slow that down, because, you know, once you're done with this tree, you're done with the tree. And I've really loved stitching this. I've loved stitching this tree. Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Now again, I don't think I want to turn around and stitch another tree right away, but I have loved stitching this tree. So from a temperature perspective for October, I thought it was very interesting. You know, as I said last week, you know, we were going to be getting into more greens here, which we did. Look at that aqua down there. So that, of course, is October 30th and 31st. And I do remember Halloween from last year, where it was a chilly day. The poor kitties were in their parkas and snow pants. I always love a princess with a good snow pant. It's just, you know, gotta love that. That's not necessarily atypical for where I live. But I laughed when I put those 2 leaves in and went, oh yeah, that was cold. So again, so I'm coming down. So I just have November left and December, and then filling in the trunk. Now, the interesting thing, because I knew that, you know, so I'm starting to come towards the end of this particular piece. It's here somewhere. Yeah, there's lots of stuff here today. Now I need to do some fiddling. Because don't forget, I've already bought the frame that I want this piece to go in, because I happened to luck out when I was at Winners, which is the equivalent of TJ Maxx here in Canada, and they had 2 identical frames, and we all know I'm planning on stitching 2 of these. I know, I'm almost there. 2 more corners. So last week I actually hauled out my frame. So conceptually, wrinkled and all, etc., etc., this is when it gets framed. This is what this is going to look like. I think it's going to look lovely. Anyway, but as we've talked about before, so I want to put the year on there, and I want to put the location. And when I put this into the frame, when I was looking at it after last week's video, I went, ooh, there is not a lot of room down here on the bottom. There's more room on the sides than there is along the bottom. So I have come to some decisions about what I'm going to do. So the location is going to go, but it's going to go on the side. I'm going to do the city here and my province over here. Fortunately, where I live, because you know I have a thing about symmetry. Fortunately, where I live, both the city and the province have the same number of letters, which is not necessarily going to be the case if you live in Newfoundland or Saskatchewan or Prince Edward Island. But where I live, fortunately, my city name and my province name have the same number of letters. So it will be very easy for me to find a font. And again, so I'm going to center them on the sides of the tree. I'll do the city and I'll do the province. And then I'm going to put the year in the trunk of the tree. Because again, I am planning on stitching extra leaves down here to represent the ranges. So those leaves are going to go along the bottom. So I'm going to put the year in the center of the tree. And of course, the year has 4 numbers in it. And so I was debating this week, it's like, so what color am I going to put them, you know, what color am I going to stitch them in? I could just leave it blank and leave it unstitched and let the fabric show through and all this kind of stuff. And it came to me. So I'm going to stitch them in 4 different colors. So the year is going to go in here vertically. So the top number is going to represent the highest number for the year, which I think is 37 point, I don't know what. Hot. That was a hot day. That was a sleep in the basement day. And then the next number is going to represent the average of the highs. So a straight up mathematical average, take all the highs for the year and average them out. The third number is going to be the median number. So that really sort of represents, sort of take all the different numbers. It's the one that's mathematically, like, so I've got 365 numbers. I'm going to have to do this math in my head. So a number, the temperature 183, the one that is directly the middle of all of the numbers is going to be the third number. And then the fourth number is going to be the lowest high of the year. So I thought that was, I was happy with my, when that idea came to me, I was like, oh yeah, that's a good range. So that's my plan. Yeah, as I sit here and go like, oh, isn't this going to look lovely when it's finished and framed? And at some point I will start my second tree, not this year and probably not even next year. But I will start my second tree, which is going to be representing my birth year. So starting the day that I was born and ending on the on my first birthday. Sorry, it's just I'm trying to ward off a sneeze. Okay, we're good. So I've got a second frame that is identical to this one, and so I will be able to frame those 2 trees and hang them together, and I think that's just going to be awesome. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And I've loved stitching this tree. Sorry, have I mentioned that? I've loved stitching this tree. So I'm very happy with how it's coming along. I'm having a little bit of angst going, oh my goodness, like I'm on the November branch, it's coming to an end. But it will also technically represent a finish, which is also a positive. Okay, so that's piece number 1. So piece number 2, because of course last week was a new project, so a new start. This week is working on a whip that was a carryover. So technically when I had framed out January and what I was going to accomplish in January, I actually got a little bit ahead of schedule because my working on the Banquet went faster than I thought because I got both part 5 and part 6 accomplished in 1 week. So this week, originally in the plan was supposed to be part 6 of the Banquet, and that was already done. So I looked at this week and went, you have a week where you get to do something extra. So if you watch the Sunshine Stitchers on YouTube, they're fantastic. EJ, Gary, and Sheila are the 3 Sunshine Stitchers. And so they have the three of them plus Carolyn Zook plus, I was going to say, there's one more Flosstuber in there that sort of instigated doing this, and then they sort of worked into their Zoom group that they stitch with, and they came up with, so they have a focus designer for every month. And so for January, the focus designer was Mirabilia / Nora Corbett, because those two designer names from a chart perspective are the same designer. And so when I got to this week and I went, I'm working on a whip, I can actually work on something that ties in with the Sunshine Stitchers and their plans. Because we all know I started my 2022 plan like last year in the summer, and they did not come up with this plan in time to work it into my into my 2022 plan, let alone my 5-year plan. Look at those freewheelers, you know, coming up with things randomly. But anyway, because I got ahead of schedule, I went, I actually can work with them and work on one of the Mirabilia / Nora Corbett designs that I have already started, that I have in my whips. And so I chose to work on Faerie Winter Dream by Nora Corbett. Love this piece. Love this piece. And I'm very happy with my progress on it this week. I am working this on, this is 28 count. Is the count that I wasn't sure. It's 28 count. Midnight Tryst Jobelan by Fabrics by Stephanie. I love this fabric. Love, love, love this fabric. I love this design on this fabric. So I felt very accomplished this week. So I finished all of the 1/1 skin. So I had to finish off the rest of her neck and part of her face. There's no back stitching in here yet, so don't be alarmed if you sort of go, I don't really see the face, and back stitching is yet to come. And I'm not one of those people where I have to get the face done and all backstitch so it looks like a face. I'm totally fine having this be nothing for the moment. So I finished off all the skin, and then, which I'm doing 1/1. I'm not going to show it up close. So I would say my 1/1 stitching is not awesome. When I'm looking at it while I'm stitching on it, I look at it sometimes and go like, this is not great stitching. But my answer is nobody's really going to look at it as closely as I am. Okay, except for my mother. And maybe my cousin who stitches. But other than that, really, okay, and the friends that I stitch with who come over periodically. Anyway, besides those people, your average person coming over to my house is not going to look at this and sort of, you know, critically analyze my 1/1 stitching. So I look at it and go, I'm okay with it. It's not my best stitching, but I'm totally fine with it. And I love how it looks at the end. Again, it's one of those ones I don't enjoy the journey, but I like how it looks at the end. So I've finished all the skin, went up, did the hair, got all of the hair accomplished. And I was talking to a friend of mine this week and went, woo, it's like I got up there when you go from doing 1/1 to 2/2, it's like, wait, the stitches are so big, which was nice. Settled in nicely. And then all of these, the entire wing on both sides, I stitched this week as well. So there's a couple of things to note here. And again, I wanted to bring this along so I could talk about it. So when I was kitting this up originally, I went into my stash and I had 2 skeins of, so this purple that you see here is Karen Waterlily's Wisteria. And I had 2 skeins of that in my stash. And so when I was kitting it up, I of course put both skeins in the bag. And some of you may go, that's totally fine if the pattern tells you you need 2 skeins, which it didn't. I put both skeins in because of the following reason. So I'm just taking them out. because they are very, very different in coloration, right? So this one is way more intense than this one. But I went, you know, this is a winter angel and blah, 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 and et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, so this is why I put them both in there, because I was like, when you start stitching it, you'll make your decision at that point in time. The Nora Corbett's do not come with DMC equivalents for their water lilies. So it's one of those cases where, you know, some when they've charted them up with over dyed, they give you DMC equivalent, where you can sort of say, okay, as I talked about last week, generally, you know, the designer was intending towards this color. Nora Corbett does not have those conversions on her charts. So what I did is, you know, when I got there and went, okay, you can't put it off any longer. Me and my cowlick. Anyway, you know, again, I kind of looked at the picture. I looked at how, you know, the rest of this was looking on this particular chart on this fabric. And knowing that there is one more color of water lilies to go in the wings. Actually, that's really funny. Which is, so the rest of these wings here are supposed to be stitched in Moon Glow. Which looks very white. So this is why it's giving me pause right now, as I'm going like, ooh, I might actually have to try. I might actually, when I start to stitch that last, because of course this is the end of this week, so this whip is going away again. When I next pull this out to start working on the wings, the last part of the wings, I may actually stitch, do a sample stitch using the Moon Glow, and I may do a sample stitch using this paler version of the wisteria. Oh, see, this is why it's good to haul things out, right? Because again, this, compared to this looks like a much more noticeable purple, but by the time you skein this, strand this down and you're only using 2 strands, I'll have to think about that. This is why I'm really glad that I put all the skeins together and left them in there. Yes. All right. All this is doing is that there's more decisions that I'm going to need to make when I haul this out next. But for now, this is going away. I am thrilled with what I got accomplished. I'm still 100% certain that this was the right call for this inner part of the wing. Sorry, and now I just have to put all these things away because otherwise it's going to be a disaster. And they have to go back on their rings because I have another set of floss away bags here. There it is. See, I've already lost one of the floss away bags. Okay. And onto the rings they go. All right. Not quite. Forgot one. And yes, when I've already taken them off, yes, they go into the bag. Yes, they're just a little bit of a jumble. They're not horrendously jumbled up where it's likely to end up in knots, but it's loosely thrown in there, which I'm totally fine with. The other thing on this is, of course, which I think you can tell is, so this darker purple is the wisteria. Then, of course, all of this next part of the wing is done with 2 colors of Krynic. Now, I do agree with a lot of other people that I prefer working with Petite Treasure braid. And so if I had everything to do all over again, I would probably, I would go and see if you actually have, if there are conversions for these rainbow galleries, or for these Krynic number 4 braids in Petite Treasure braid by Rainbow Gallery. The number of colors that you can get between Krynic number 4 braid and Petite Treasure braid are not identical and not everything aligns. So you can't necessarily convert across. But when I was kitting this up, I had got the Krynics, the called for Krynics when I was getting the beads for this. And so since I had already bought the Krynics, and it's not that I hate working with the Krynics, I think the Petite Treasure braid is a better option, but I'd already bought the Krynics, and so that's what I used. And it may be hard to tell, but there's 2 different colors of Krynic in there. So again, one is slightly a slightly more intense, you know, lilac lavender, which is 023, and then the paler one is 3223. So there's actually two colors of Krynic in those wings at the moment. So 3 out of 4 colors on the wings are completed. I've got just that one, the rest of it left to go. And don't kid yourself, there's a healthy chunk of wing left to go on this. And then again, this is not close to a finish because of course then I have to do all of the back stitching. The back stitching on this is not bad because it's really just around her arms and over the wings. There's no back stitching in the bottom half of this. It's all in the top half, so not too bad on the back stitching. But as I've commented before, every one of those spots that you see is waiting for a bead to come. So the beading won't take uberly long, but it's not like there's 27 beads. And then the other thing that was interesting as I was working on this week. So here's my bag of all the beads and treasures that are needed for this particular project. But when I was working on the hair, I was like going, this is very odd hair, like it's straight across. I was kind of went, I'd followed the chart correctly and I went, that's a little bit weird. Why is that? And it, of course, is because there is a Mill Hill treasure that goes up there. It is a snowflake. And so I dutifully opened my packet, hauled out my snowflake, and went, it's going to be perfect. Okay, it's not straight. But it's going to fill in that spot just perfectly. Isn't this going to be lovely when it's done? Anyway, it's going away again. It does come up in the plans because I have a secret targeted finish date for this particular project. And I'm not going to say what the target date is for this because as I've discovered before, when I put it out on Flosstube, when I'm finishing things, that invariably the whole plan goes to pot and like I never get anywhere close to accomplishing it. So I have a secret target date for when this is going to be finished, and I'm working towards that. So I think this has made great progress in advance of where it was originally on my schedule for 2022 stitching. So I am thrilled with my progress on Faerie Winter Dream this week. It's coming along. All right, and then of course the third piece that I worked on this week, which was really only for the Sunday nights because it's my Sunday stitching. This is the sampler of stitches stitch along that I am doing with the Stitchin' Mommy, which has the hashtag SOS 2022 SAL. And I forgot to post this week, so I'll put one up this week. This turns into an interesting discussion this week. And I forgot to bring part A. That's fine. So I did my stitching on Sunday. Some of the things that I was supposed to make decisions on, I didn't get decisions on. So here's where I'm at right now. So I did not get my burden stitch in here, which is the one where I need to make the decision as to whether or not I'm going to use the bijou metallic that I bought, which was called for in my particular version of the chart, or whether I'm just going to do it in 2 colors of Soie d'Alger, which is what the current versions look like. So I still have not made that decision and left that blank. Worked on the stitches down here. I think it's going to be, so this is me debating what gray to use to replace the cream color. So the cream Soie d'Alger in the original color palette makes sense because they were stitching it on, I want to say it's custard. Yeah, custard cream linen, which has a little bit of a yellow undertone to it. It's not like it's yellow, but it has a yellow undertone to it. So the cream makes sense. I, of course, because I've changed my fabric and I'm changing my palette, I'm going to be doing this in a gray. And at this point in time, I had 3 grays pulled out that I think I showed when I originally posted my picture on Instagram of the grays. I don't even have them. So I originally had 3. Here's a blank Flosstube bag, because as soon as I hauled it out, I went, it's too pale. I'm not going to like it. I'm done with that. So that particular gray has actually even come out of my set of Flosstube bags that I'm using for this project. So I've got 2 grays left, a darker and a lighter. And again, so this is literally when if the decision is not obvious, I tend to end up doing, I test stitch it. So I stitched a little bit in each of the colors, and I was unhappy with both of them. I think this one is too light. I think this one is too dark. So I've had to go back to my LNS, and the color that I'm now targeting for this, they did not have in stock. None of them had it in stock. So I've got it on order. So this cushion stitch is technically not going to get finished until that Soie d'Alger arrives. So one of my tasks tonight when I work on this is I need to look ahead and see how many other places that particular color is being used in for the letter D. And again, if it doesn't arrive for another 4 weeks, no big loss, because I am already ahead of schedule. So the letter C is not supposed to be completed until Sunday, February, so the evening of Sunday, February 6th. So my February 6th stitching on it, and I feel like I'm well ahead, because tonight when I start stitching, I'm going to make some decisions and get my burden stitch in here, which goes in here, and then I'm going to start on D, which I was going to say D, which goes here, which it doesn't. D goes over here. D, E, F go over here. So the other thing that happened this week, and so it'll be interesting to see if any of you noticed, I actually ripped out some stitching that I had already done. So the alternating back stitch that I did up here originally was in this pale pink color, which I've used here in the flowers and I've used up here. And I ripped it out because I didn't like it. So I stitched this in so I think I talked about this before, that I have 4 colors of mauve, which is technically more than the original pattern calls for. They technically call for this darkest one and then these 2. Technically not in this specific color family, but that's my version of it. And when I was getting them, I also got, so there were 4 colors in this range, and I decided to get all 4. And I'm really glad that I did. Really glad that I did. So I ripped out the stitching here, which was in this palest one, and did it in the second color here. And as soon as I took it out and put it in, I liked it better. I'm now debating this one. But the reason why I started thinking about it is, so this particular stitch, and I really wish I had, I want to say that it's a crossed Jobelan stitch. I don't know. I should have brought it, but I don't. Anyway, so I did this specialty stitch here, which was totally fine, in the called for color, which is the darkest of them. This darkest color is called for down here in, again, these have another name that they call them that starts with this, I want to say the cup stitch, I think is what they're calling it. I call them a version of Jessica stitches. Anyway, and so this color was called for down here, and I didn't like it. I felt that it was too dark. And so I went, so I don't have to follow the pattern. So again, this is where I originally used that second color, second up of the four, darkest, second darkest, and stitched it in and went, oh yeah, I like this combination better. Again, my light's gone really weird on me. So I changed that out, and as soon as I did that, I was like, oh yeah, no, I need to go and fix this, which was really funny. I'm now debating whether or not I need to change this out, or maybe this, I'm thinking. I don't know. We'll see. Check back next week and see if I've made any decisions. But as soon as I changed this, I liked this a lot better, and I liked this much better. So I think what I need to do for the bees, I need to go in, because the center of these need to be, there's beads that go in there. So I think I should haul the beads out and put them on there and see if I would be happier with the other color. So I may end up, and again, these, like, there's only 4 of them. It'll take like 5 minutes to restitch that. So not a big deal once I make a decision. But other than that, I loved my change down here, and I loved going back and restitching that. I think that is a much better version. Now again, I think it looks a little weird in this light because, you know, things are happening with my light here. Anyway, so yeah, I'm okay with that light pink in real life. I don't think it shows up very well on camera, or certainly not in this light. But yes, it's coming along. Other than that, so I got my acorn in. So I made my decision on my acorn and got that stitched in, and I'm very happy with that, and I'm happy with my crown. All of that was good. So I'm happy with that color palette, the way that it's shaping up. Again, I've got to wait for a color of Soie d'Alger to show up so I can finish my C. But other than that, I'm looking forward to stitching on this tonight. Actually, let's just put this one over here. Because tonight, so yes, I have to do my burden stitch. But tonight I start on the next chart in the series, so part 2 DEF. So I will, yeah, I'll have to decide what I'm going to do first. I think I'm gonna start with getting the letter in again, and then I'm looking at this going like, oh yeah, see, there's that pink already used, so I may need to make some decisions. So we'll see how it goes. As always, check back next week and see what I end up doing. I'm already looking at this going, ooh, so the cream, the Soie d'Alger version of cream is not called for in this. They do, however, call for the Soie 103 in cream, and I already have that color chosen because it perfectly coordinates with the Soie Perlee that I've chosen, so I might actually be okay. Nice. Okay, I know, totally distracted. Now I'm looking at my chart. Anyway, okay, put it away. Anyway, so that's tonight's project, is to start that one. And the burden stitch. Yes. So that's my stitching for this week. So I feel like I've had a pretty good week. We'll talk about that again a little bit more when we get into my review of January. Let's talk about Stashquisitions. So I've tried to be fairly well behaved this week, because I'm trying to wait to see what's being released at Nashville. There's Kathy Haberman from Hands On Design has been taunting me with something, and she hasn't even shown me a sneak peek of it. All she's had is her husband rave about how awesome it is, which is not good. So I'm eagerly awaiting the Nashville releases, and trying to be well behaved while I'm waiting for that. So the things that I have acquired this week, when I was working on the Shamrock row, DMC 950 was the called for color for those few stitches to do the face of the two leprechauns. And when I was pulling that together in my stash, I discovered I only had one skein of 950, which was loads for what I was using for, but I had a little moment where I'm like, I can't believe that's all you have. Because I'm trying to work my way out of DMCs that I have in my stash, because there's a lot that I have on bobbins between when I first started stitching, and really that's all anybody ever did was bobbinate, and I inherited all of my aunt's DMC and quite a bit of my mother's DMC. Not all of it, but quite a bit of it came to me. So I'm trying to work, you know, as I'm using up DMC, I'm trying, unless it's one where it says like you're going to need multiple skeins of DMC, in which case I would actually make sure I've got full skeins for those. I'm trying to use up the DMCs that I already have. But when I got there and I was like, you only have this one skein and that's it, I went, well, you clearly need to add more of that into your stash just in case. So I dutifully went off and I got 2 skeins of DMC 950. Woohoo! Budget breaker on that one. This is purely to go into stash so that the next time I go, do I have 950? I go, of course I've got 950 in my stash. I talked about this when I was working on the Banquet, my canvas work piece, that I loved my needle pullers and I completely regretted that I had forgotten to pull them out when I started stitching on it, and that given how much of a difference it made for me while I was working on my canvas work piece, that, you know, heaven forbid I should ever be short needle pullers. So I dutifully went off to Traditional Stitches and I ordered 2 more packages. These were on sale, 25% off, so that was great. So I've got 2 more. I have that moment where it's like, maybe I need 1 more set of these because I'm ridiculous like that. But so far I haven't done it. I have up until when I start putting in my Nashville needlework orders to decide if I want 1 more pair. We'll see if they're still on sale. And then was very well behaved and got these 2 Dinky dies. This is True Blue. And this is Dreamtime. This is for a project that is yet to come up. So I got those. And now we get to the most exciting Stashquisition. I am so excited about this. And I want all of you out there to prepare yourselves that you will not probably be nearly as excited about this as I am. This is unique to me. Yes, I have to move a few things. I made a trip to IKEA yesterday. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. I know, it's very exciting for me. Again, it's not necessarily very exciting for all of you, but it's very exciting for me. After waiting months and months and months and months, they finally got some of the, I call them 10 by 10. They're not quite, they're 9 3/4 by 9 3/4 square shadow boxes. I have been waiting months and 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 months for these. They finally got them in. I had signed up for all the notifications, email notifications, text notifications on your cell phone, the whole kit and caboodle. I got no notifications on this coming back into stock, but because I'm a stalker and I'm really was, you know, really concerned about not ever being able to get these things, as I do regularly, I went and I checked on the IKEA page for my location, and they had them in stock, and so I got them. Yay! I'm only showing you one. I got more than one. I was telling a friend of mine last night, because I was so excited when I got home, that I had gotten these, and when I was in, so I did the click and collect to make sure, to guarantee that I got them, because I was like, who knows how fast these things are going to go. When I did the click and collect, I got them, put them in the trunk of my car, went back into IKEA to, you know, do a tour and see a couple of other things, walked out with a couple of other things, and saw them in the store and counted how many they had there. And so I would say that they probably had about 45 of these frames in stock when I was there yesterday at noon. I will tell you that this morning I got up and checked the inventory status. They are out. There are none left. I am so glad. I'm so glad I got them. I am so thrilled. I've been waiting for these. Now, if you're new to my channel, you probably don't understand why I'm this level of excited. Because I have plans. And yes, I got more than one. I'm not going to tell you exactly how many, because it's, you know, going to sound a little bit weird. But I figure it's enough. It will suffice. Okay. So it all started off with hands-on design. She started this series called The Kitchen Counter. There's a series of 3 charts, and there's a mystery chart embedded in this as well, that you need all 3 charts to get to have all of the parts to do the mystery chart. I only have 2. So this is Lick the Bowl, which says, life is short, lick the bowl. And this one is Don't Be Afraid to Take Whisks. Yes, that's my sense of humor. Anyway, so I liked the charts anyway, and they were clearly going to come home. If you want another home-oriented series that Hands-On Design has done, she's got a whole one about ironing. My favorite of, again, it's a series of 3, and between those 3, my favorite one is the one that says irony, the opposite of wrinkly. I know. Yeah, that's my sense of humor. Anyway, so somebody had, you know, whipped this thing up and fully finished it, and I loved their finish because they finished it with a little whisk. And I showed these when I found them. Again, in my winners, they had this series of 3 things. So the spatula, the lifter, and a whisk. And these are my colors. Anyway, again, I've never seen this set anywhere else. And so my whole plan is, yeah, so I'm ridiculous. So this, yeah, this is how my mind works. So the stitch count on this is 64 by 91. And so I actually measured it out on a piece of paper. It's going to be hard to say because I used white paper. So I did it on, I've got 2 versions of this. I've got it on 28 count and I've got it on 32 count. My end decision is I will be stitching this on 28 count so that so let's say that's my stitching more or less, and my whisk will fit in here. Yeah, do a fabric background, blah, 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 something. Who knows what else I'm going to put in there. This is the whole reason why I needed to have this. And it's deep enough that the whisk actually fits. There's a, yeah. Oops. Yeah. Anyway. So it's deep enough that the whisk actually fits. Right? Yay! I'm so excited. So I get to do this. And so clearly the whisk is going to be going with the one that says don't be afraid to take whisks. between the spatula and the lifter, I'm planning on using the spatula for the Lick the Bowl one. Technically, there's probably room that I can put both of them in here, so who knows how that will actually work. Again, because I have 2 of the 3 charts, I have 2 of the 3 parts on the conversion, and I think the center part that I'm missing is like pints to quarts, which is not measurements I use at all anyway. So, you know, who knows what we'll end up doing with the other one. But yes, I am so excited about this. So excited. And just gonna throw this in here again, because I'm gonna, as weird as this is, see if we can't get this to be the screen grab. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay. Sorry, do you want me to say it one more time? So this is great. And again, this is one where I've picked out my palette already, or at least I've picked out the gist of my palette. No final decisions at this point in time, because I've got, yeah. So I've got a little note in my baggie of a couple of other things to consider. So if these are my utensils, I've got a couple of Silk Splendor, really to go in this. I got the darker one, not necessarily that it coordinates with this, but you just never know when you need something darker to be outlined or whatever, and who knows what I'm going to do with this. I've got a couple of Anchor, not DMC, for my Aqualand. It'd be nice if they held up. But I also did pick up a couple of over dyes. I've got Mint Julep by Classic Colorworks and Cottage Blue by Gentle Arts. And again, so I haven't decided how these are going to get used, because clearly I'm going to have to, mine is not going to be red and aqua. There is aqua, but mine's going to be blue, aqua, and gray, so I'll need to be doing some adjusting. And whether or not it's going to be a 1-for-1, again, I'm already looking at this going, whether or not it's going to be a 1-for-1 conversion, I don't know about that. So more importantly, I got the Shadowbox frame. I'm so excited, to a level of ridiculous excited. Asked my friend who I phoned last night to tell her that I had gotten them, because I think I only mentioned about 20 times on the one phone call that I was very excited that I had got these, and these were now safely in my stash. Now, I will say, the Sunshine Stitchers focus on a designer for February is hands-on design. Technically, when I came up with my 2022 plan, I do not have a hands-on design start currently planned for February. But now that I have the Shadowbox, and yes, the utensils live in the project bag, because knowing me, I would put them somewhere special, and you can ask Denise Jeffrey what happens when I put things somewhere special. They literally live in here. So I've got the 2 charts. There's no fabric in here. That little baggie of threads that I've chosen so far at the moment. That's not a complete palette, because I do need some grays to represent the metallic on the whisks and all that kind of stuff. So sorry, this is gonna have to go back over here. Anyway, but I got the box frame. I'm so excited. And the funny thing is, while I was over picking this up from my IKEA, I went into Michael's, and because that was it's hard finding a frame that's actually about 10 by 10. I even checked on Amazon, and then I was like, oh, if you have to get them specifically made or whatever. There are 10 by 10 Shadowbox frames at Michael's. They are $45 a piece. This beauty, which I will give you, there is an acrylic, so there is an acrylic front where you can either keep it back, which is how they send it to you, but they've also got a notch here up at the front so that you can move it up, which is what I will be doing, which is acrylic, which I totally get. There's a difference between the cost between acrylic and the cost between glass, and I totally get that. These are going in my kitchen. I was totally fine with it being the acrylic. These are $7 versus $45 at Michael's. I'm going with the IKEA ones. I'm so excited. The other thing that I have planned for these, so Stitching with the Housewives, Priscilla and Chelsea, back in December, they came out with a gingerbread recipe that they, so it's a real recipe to make gingerbread cookies and anyway, etc., etc. And I liked it. I don't have that chart at the moment, but that's on one of my to get lists. But I didn't want to get it because I didn't know if I was ever going to be able. So I've measured it out. It will fit in this frame as well. So that's one of the other options, is that I could do the two, like Lick the Bowl and Don't Be Afraid to Take Whisks, and then the one in the center can be different recipes, because it sounds like they have their heads around doing a whole series of recipes. So I like the gingerbread one, because then you sort of, put it in a shadow box, and then you could have your piece, and then you could have like little gingerbread cookie cutters, and anyway, whatever. The one that they just released, which is part of their February releases that are coming to shops, they have the recipe for carrot cake. I think they've got 4 bunnies on the bottom, and I think I only really want 2 bunnies on the bottom, but I can fix this when I get there. But yes, in my head I'm like, if she does a sugar cookie recipe, and if she does a yard sauce recipe, and who knows what else she's going to come up with. But I measured them out, and they will fit in these boxes as well. I got them. I can stop stalking IKEA. I think IKEA sent them to Calgary because I was phoning IKEA about once a week. Like phoning, because they have a 1-800 number that you can phone in and ask them questions. And so I was phoning in, besides checking the website, I was phoning in about once a week saying, when are you sending these to Calgary? When are you sending these to Calgary? When are you sending these to Calgary? Calgary finally got a shipment. And they're also a now or never item, which they're saying, like, so these are being discontinued. Once they're gone, they're not planning on getting them in again. Now, they've said that before on other items, and they've just come back in like a slightly different version of them. So who knows what the next one is, but these are the perfect size for what I was looking for. And I have them, and I have them, and I have them, and I have them, and I have more than one. I'm hoping I have all that I need. I had a moment because my friend got me worried. She's like, are you sure you have enough? Maybe you should get a couple of extras. And I was like, maybe I should go back. And anyway, I checked this morning and they're all gone. So I hopefully can live with the quantity that I have. If not, I'll have to get much better about learning how to swap things out, I think. Anyway, so that is my most exciting part of my Stashquisitions. Very, very, very exciting. I know, not so exciting for you, and particularly given I'm not really good about actually finishing things, but it's great to have a plan and have all the items so that theoretically, if I ever got my act together and figured out what to actually do and got the thing stitched, I could finish it the way that I've been dreaming of having it finished. Anyway, all right, let's get on to the topic. Let's talk about my January wrap-up. So it was interesting. I have 2 pieces of paper here. Trying to figure out, yes. So I have my my 2022 plan. It's actually got my 2022 plan plus the highlights of my 2023 plan, and I also have this, very simple 2022 calendar, which so far, with everybody going into full planner mode and book of days and all the things that people are doing and stickering, I'm still fine with what I'm doing. It's working for me. It's great. Yes, I will say also behind the scenes, I do have an Excel spreadsheet because I'm going to have more things that I'm working on this year. So I am I am updating that spreadsheet so that I can do a year-end wrap-up really well. But so far, I think that my 2022 stitching plan is working out fantastic. I am surprised at how much I've gotten accomplished in January. Same thing, I was talking to a friend of mine and I was sort of commenting on I feel like I've gotten a lot of stitching accomplished this month compared to last year, where I feel like I should have been able to get about the same amount done. And she kind of said, I think part of the thing is that because I was working on the Never Ending Nativity last year, and while I really, really wanted it to be done, and I really, really wanted it to be finished, I wasn't, at that point, I wasn't necessarily loving it, and I wasn't necessarily giving myself enough of a break from it. Again, I think it's one of the lessons that I learned from 2021 is I probably would have been better off putting it down for a bit, like for a week or maybe even 2 weeks, and then coming back to it and focusing on it. Now, part of that had to do with the fact that for my 2021 stitching plan, I had all these focus pieces that I wanted to work on and get them started. And so I kind of had this other goal that was sort of somewhat conflicting with one of the other options. So, you know, that's one of the things that I brought with me into 2022 is not working on things for such a long period of time. So again, so my sampler of stitches, again, because I love this concept. I love this concept, right? Working on something that is alphabet related because I have quite a few alphabet related patterns in my stash. And again, you know, sampler of stitches. You know, this is a series of 9 charts that I have had in my stash since whenever they were, I think I've done this before where I can't find, I don't remember when they came out. I want to say it's in like the 2006, 2008 range. So I've had them for over a decade and I've never even started on them. But this plan of I only need to have 1 letter done every 2 weeks. I am, as far as I'm concerned, I am ahead of schedule. Granted, okay, technically C is not going to be finished till that skein of Soie d'Alger comes in. But, you know, they're cushion stitches. It's not going to take that long. So I'm keeping, so 1, this is my first stitch along that I'm actively participating in, and I am keeping on track with it. I am on pace. I think I'm doing great with it. Thrilled with how it's all coming together. Again, so tonight I'll do my burden stitch and then I'm going to start working on D. So according to my schedule, I am ahead of schedule. So I'm going to jump ahead and go. So next week, by the time I do my stitching on February 6th, as far as I'm concerned, I fully expect that my letter D will be complete by that week, which means I am a full 2 weeks ahead of schedule for keeping on track with this particular piece and having this series of 9 charts completed in 2022. So that is very exciting, very exciting. And again, what I'm currently doing, and this is not necessarily going to hold true for all of the months of this year, but what I'm currently doing is I am spending a week working on something new, and then I'm working on a whip. So far, my new pieces for 2022, yes, they've been smaller pieces, which there's nothing wrong with smaller pieces. But I got my January Cottage completely finished, and I love it. When I was hauling out this, so I've got a bag where this is residing for right now, and I'm looking at going like, yes, I still love this. Love it, love it, love it. So that one was a new start and a finish. I, of course, last week, my new piece was, because it doesn't fit on the board, was my Shamrock row, which was a start and a finish all within the same week. So very productive. So those are 2 new starts, also 2 finishes. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as I finish the burden stitch tonight, I'm calling part 1 of the sampler stitches finished, which means, so that is 3 charts that I will have completed in January. And the other whip that I worked on this month was my the Banquet canvas work piece. by Freda's Fancy Stitching. Should probably just do this. So I finished, again, so this is a series of 8 charts. And so I finished part 5 and part 6. So yes, there's 2 more parts left to go, but part 5 and part 6 were accomplished this month as well. So that is a total of 5 charts that I have completed so far in 2022. Now that's not 5 full pieces, right? So there's only 2 fully stitched and finished pieces, but 5 charts completed. And I did the math on this because I always look at my stash and go, I have stash beyond life expectancy. But I did the math on it where I felt better. It's like if I can finish 5 charts a month, I can finish my stash in my life expectancy. We all know that that is not a realistic expectation, that I can finish 5 charts every month, but that's not the point. I did the math and went, there is a possibility that I could finish all of the charts in my stash within my lifetime. I'm ignoring the ones that I have, yet to purchase. That's a different problem. But anyway, so that's 5 charts that will have been completed. 2 new starts that were finished from a stitching perspective, not fully finished, not FFO'd, because they're still like this. Anyway, and 2 whips worked on. So I made really good progress on the Banquet, and I'm very happy with my progress on Faerie Winter Dream, because that wasn't even part of my stitching plan for January. That was an add-on. So that was really great. So far, my plan for this alternating between new starts and whips is working wonderfully for me. So I'm planning on continuing that in February. Right now, hang on. Oh yeah, so I've got 4, hang on. 2, 3. I think there's going to be 5 starts in February as well. Not 5 finishes. Well, I don't know about 5 finishes, but I think there's going to be 5 new starts for February. So certainly this week, because again, we are on the week where I am working on a new project. In fact, I think I'm going to work on 2 new projects this week, is what's on the schedule. So 2 new starts for this week. Technically, so don't get excited when 5 sounds like a lot. So 2 new starts for this week. Actually, that's not true. 3 new starts for this week, because DEF is going to be a new start tonight. So 3 new starts this week for my week of new starts, before we go back to whips. So yeah, so far I think it's working out very well. And again, part of this was learning lessons from last year and how my stitching is progressing. And again, when I sit here and I look at what have I accomplished in January, I'm really happy with what I accomplished. So I'll be working on my sampler of stitches tonight. I will be having 2 new starts over the course of this next week. I will continue to work on my temperature tree, make some progress on that. Probably November will get completed, and a start on December, which, man, we really will be coming in on a close for that. So yeah, one of my tasks for tonight while this is getting uploaded is one of the new starts, which I'm planning on starting tomorrow. I don't have the fabric ready for it. So I need to pull that fabric. I need to pull the fabric. It's not going to be anything exotic. It's already in my stash. So I actually need to get that fabric ready to go, because that's my new start for tomorrow. Yay! So it'll be interesting. So I'm going to continue on this path for February, where I'm alternating weeks between new starts and whips. And then when we get to the end of February, we'll do another evaluation and see what's happening. I will tell you that my plan for March is not the same. So it's going to be coming up a little bit differently when we hit March. But we'll talk about that when we get to March. So yeah, I'm really excited. I think my stitching plan for 2022 is working out fantastic. I'm thrilled with the stitching that I've got accomplished. 5 charts finished. And again, for some of you who are working on like HAIDs and huge pieces and all that kind of stuff, this is not competitive. We are not in a race, because I totally go, you know, my rinky dink little cottage. It still counts as a finish, and it's a chart in my stash that is now finished, and I'm thrilled that it's finished. But this is nowhere close to having like a heaven and earth design or a mirabilia finished. Those are 2 different kettles of fishes. And that's totally fine, but they are 5 charts out of my stash that I have stitched and finished, which is a huge win in my stitching evaluation. So I'm thrilled with how it's coming. So we're going to continue that for February. So you've got another 4 weeks. So you'll know that the plan is new start week, followed by a whip week, followed by a new start week, followed by a whip week. And then that will take us, for the purposes of videos, on February 27th, we'll do sort of an evaluation of how February worked out for me and what my plans are for March, because it's going to be there's a twist on what I'm going to be doing for March. But yes, I know I'm totally distracted because I'm looking, because I've really sort of planned out my weeks all the way through June. And so this is why there's 2 pieces of paper. So I've sort of planned out my weeks through June on my calendar one, and my overall stitching plan for 2023, which Flashes has, you know, arrows and scribbles and crossing out and all those kinds of, because a plan is just a plan. There's no rules, there's no police. So I still have every opportunity between now and the end of the year to change a lot of things on here. So far I have not changed what the planned new starts are at this point in time, but that's open to evaluation. As I just said, there's a possibility I may be adding in another new start, because I might have to start working on that whisk one. Anyway, that's not currently in here, so check back later. But anyway, so far I think the plan's working out great. So I hope all of you, if you have a stitching plan, I know not everybody does. I know that there are lots of people out there where their whole plan is to stitch what you want when you want, which is totally fine. If that's working for you, that's fantastic. But if you have a stitching plan, I hope your plan is working out for you. And the thing is, if it isn't working out for you, there is nothing wrong with changing it, period, full stop. There's nothing wrong with doing, you know, if you've historically been a totally monogamous stitcher and this is your year where you're trying to work on multiple projects, you know, I think of Sheila and I was like, where she changes her project every day. That is not going to work for me. I already know that about myself, and it works for her, and I think that's fantastic. That's great. It works for her. It would not work for me. I have no intentions of doing that, because I know that about myself. And if you're working on something because you're trying to, somebody else's version of how they stitch or their rotation or their whatever sounds interesting to you, and you think it's a great, you know, and you're trying it and it's not working for you, either it's frustrating you or it's giving you anxiety because you're changing projects every day, there's no reason for you to continue. There's nothing wrong with trying a new version of things and saying this isn't working. The great thing is if you try something and you discover that it's really working for you. Like so far this year, my new version of a rotation so far is working fantastic for me. I'm very happy with this version of rotations. Again, so if you're looking for things to do in February, Sunshine Stitchers, they've got a hashtag. I'll put it in the notes below because I don't remember it directly off the top of my head. Garon Designer Focus, I think is what it is. Like if you just want to follow that hashtag on Instagram, you can see what people are doing. So their focus for February is hands-on design. There is, I've forgotten the name of who's doing it, but both in the Garon Facebook group and in the Sunshine Stitchers Facebook group. No, it's not either one of them. So they're following somebody else's. It's killing me that I can't remember who it is, but she's come up with a plan similar to Bringo, which again, I don't participate in that Facebook group, and I didn't do Bringo because again, that's one where you're changing things every day, and I know that doesn't work for me. But she's come up with one if you want to stitch things along with the Winter Olympics that are starting up in February. She's come up with a themes for I think it's for 2 weeks, 16 days, 14 or 16 days is what she's come up with. And they're things like, you know, work on a project that has one of the colors that are in the Olympic rings. So whether it's black, blue, green, yellow, or red, you know, work on that. One of them's like work on something, you know, the Olympic Village, work on something that has a house on it. So it's things like that. And it's ones where, you know, as long as you are not a solely monogamous stitcher where you only work on one project till it is fully complete, if you have a few whips in your stash, you can probably find things to work on. And again, you don't have to participate with the theme of every day. You can choose what to do. Again, I would say generally for 2022, I don't know that I will necessarily be joining in on the Garon and Sunshine Stitchers Focus on a Designer, because it doesn't closely align with what I've got in my stitching plan. But again, I got ahead of schedule, and I had a week where it's like it was a whip week, and I actually had a whip that was a Nora Corbett, and so I had the opportunity where it's like, yeah, I can stitch on this, and I will join in. So I will be posting a picture of Faerie Winter Dream with that hashtag on Instagram. So yeah, join in where and as you want, period. And with that, I've moved all the things around. I've done all the things. As always, if you have any comments or questions or topics that you would like me to address, please put them down in the comments down below, and I look forward to seeing you next week. So with that, I hope everybody is staying safe. I hope everybody is staying healthy, and I hope you're all finding some time to do some stitching, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.